Welcome back to everybody that is joining me today. We are going to do our lunchtime yoga, so grab your mat. And today, if you have any blocks at home available to use, grab those and just keep them kind of nearby. And then also if you have a blanket or a pillow to sit on, that would be great. And if you don't have blocks or regular yoga props, you're welcome to use anything that you have. So even like bigger books or something that would be equivalent to blocks, they really just help to kind of raise the floor up to us in certain poses, so it allows us to go deeper into a pose and relax better into a pose. So that's the purpose of blocks. It's not, I use them all the time. They're not like making it easier or anything like that. So if you have something that would work as blocks, or if you have blocks, definitely grab those for today. And I think we'll start laying down again today. So your knees are relaxing in on each other, and just allow yourself to feel the floor beneath you and just settle in. So maybe bring your hands to your low belly and just begin to breathe. So we're not going to be manipulating the breath very much, just kind of noticing it and tuning into the breath and how it feels. So inhaling deeply and exhaling slowly. Notice that your low back begins to sink a little further into the floor. Notice that your ribs are expanding on the inhale and pressing into the floor, and softening on the exhale. So while you're breathing, I'm just going to start the class with a reading today. So continue that gentle motion of breath and just really paying attention, tuning into your own rhythm of breath. And also remember that all of us have a different motion, or rhythm I should say, of breath. So trying to match mine or trying to manipulate it in any way is not going to actually be very productive. So just try to really notice what your own breath is saying to you. So this is a passage from a book by Rolf Gates. The passage is called The Moment. Sitting and breathing brings us into the miraculous experience of our own embodied present moment. Over time and with practice, we find that intimacy with the body and the breath exceeds the most sublime experiences of art or music. In fact, we come to the understanding that all art, all mastery, all acts of transcendence flow from and are expressions of our own inner space, the body, the breath, the mind, and the heart. As we take in the depth of our inner space, we are brought into intimate contact with the larger space, the moment. There is an understanding that changes us gradually and forever. The space within us and the space around us are the same. We are the wave and the ocean, and everything else is too. So throughout the practice, take with you this moment that we're spending on conscious breathing, and try to just remember that the breath is essentially the foundation of everything. So noticing it and paying attention to it is really such a powerful tool for us to tune in, and therefore tuning out other things around us. So just a few more breaths here, inhaling deeply, expanding the belly, lifting the chest up to the sky, broadening the collarbones, and then exhaling down the back of the spine, softening the body into the floor. Keep your hands on your belly or bring them there if they're not already. And we're going to just slightly tilt the pelvis. So think of your pelvis as a cup that's got some water, some kind of liquid in it. And we're tipping the cup back and forth, but we're not going to tip it so far that we're pouring out any of the liquid. So imagining that, we're breathing in. So inhale, puff the belly out, up into the hands, and tilt the tilt the pelvis so the the lower back is peeling off of the floor. We're pushing the belly into the hands. And then on the exhale, we're emptying the belly and pushing the low back into the floor. So using your hands sort of as a guide. Inhale and pushing the belly out. Exhale, lowering the low back to the floor. So naturally, your low back has a nice arch in it. We're just kind of taking that arch out. So we're kind of pushing the back into the floor. Just a few more rounds of that. We're basically doing kind of a cat-cow, but laying on our backs instead of on our hands and knees. Inhale, pushing the belly up towards the sky. Exhale, pushing the low back into the floor. And again, it's kind of rotating the pelvis back and forth like you would a cup. And the movement is so slight you might not even see me doing it. And then come back to stillness and bring the hands to the sides of you, palms facing down. Inhale and bring the right arm up, fingertips up towards the sky, and then exhale the back of the hand to the floor behind you. Inhale and bring the hand back up. Exhale the palm to the floor. Left hand next, so inhale up. Exhale the back of the hand to the floor. Inhale up to the sky. Exhale the palm back down. And then inhale both hands up. Exhale both backs of the hands to the floor. Notice if one arm reaches the ground first. One of your shoulders may be more open than the other. Inhale the hands up. Exhale back down. And then inhale both hands up again. This time turn the palms to face each other and reach for opposite elbows. Inhale, exhale, bring the arms over to the right, stretching out the outer left shoulder. Keep breathing. Inhale back up, exhale over to the left. And then come back to center. Exhale, bring the arms to the forehead or even the crown of the head if your shoulders are feeling open today. Whatever is best for you, find that spot and bring your arms up there. And then separate the knees and drop the knees over to the right. Flex the left foot to protect the left knee here. So your feet are still a little wider than hips distance, so the legs are not together, but they're falling over to the same side. And then come back to center and drop the knees over to the left, flexing the right foot this time. Come back to center. And then release the arms above the chest. And release the hands. And then recross with the opposite arm in front. So this time we're lowering the arms over to the right and then lowering the legs over to the left. Flexing the right foot. So this is a nice twist for the back. And come back to center. Lower the arms over to the left. Lower the legs over to the right. Flexing the left foot. And then come back to center and release the arms above the head again. And then come back up to center and release the arms down. Take a breath here. And then roll over to your right side. Bring your left hand to the floor and slowly push yourself up to seated. And really kind of allow your head to arrive last in seated. Excuse me for just a moment. Sorry. All right. So come to seated, and you can have your legs bent like this with your knees in front of your hips, or if you'd like to have your legs long, that's perfectly fine too. Just, whatever feels comfortable for your body. So come to seated, and we'll just begin to roll the shoulders. So inhale and bring the shoulders forward and up, and then exhale back and down. So think about rolling them in a circular motion. Inhale, forward and up. Exhale, back and down. A few more times. Inhale, forward and up. Exhale, back and down. Notice if there's any sticky spots or any spots that are crunchy or kind of getting stuck as you go. Exhale, back and down. And then come back to center and bring your hands to your sides. Turn the left palm up and reach the hand all the way up. And then bend the elbow and place the left hand on the back of the head, the left palm. And then begin to walk your right hand out to the side. Drop your right shoulder away from your ear and just lean over to your right. So you'll feel an openness here in your left shoulder, collarbone maybe, and just kind of bringing that left elbow up towards the sky here. Release the left hand and reach over to your right. And then come back up. Release the left hand down to the right palm up. Inhale and reach all the way up. Lengthening first, and then bend the right elbow, palm to the back of the head, and then walk the left hand out to the left. So opening up the right side this time, bringing the right elbow up towards the sky, drop the left shoulder away from the ear. Really just imagining the openness of the shoulders here. And then release the right arm over to the left. And come back to center, release the hands down. Bring the hands in front of you and walk forward. So think about, we're moving the spine in all different directions. So we went to both sides and now we're coming forward. Nice deep breath here. And then walk back in. Lean back just slightly so you can untuck and retuck the legs. So the opposite leg is in front and probably the less habitual side that you usually don't put in front. Notice what different sensations there are in this side. Bringing the head towards the floor as best you can. And then walking the hands back in again. Bring the hands to the sides, palms up, reach the arms up and lengthen, and then bring the hands behind you. And the fingertips can be pointing away from the body and just opening up the chest here, broadening the collarbone. And then release the hands, and we'll come to table pose and hands and knees. And you want your fingers and palms to be nice and wide in table pose. So directly under your shoulders and your feet are directly behind your knees. We'll just do a couple rounds of cat-cow to get our spine a little more warmed up. So inhale, exhale, empty the belly and reach the shoulder blades up towards the sky. So separating the shoulder blades, tucking the chin just slightly, gazing down at the knees or thighs. And then inhale, melt the chest towards the floor. Gaze up to the front of the mat. And then exhale again, empty the belly. Gazing down. Inhale, bring the shoulder blades together down the back. And then come back to center. Bring the right foot behind you, ball of the foot on the floor, and just begin to stretch out that hamstring here. So I usually kind of bounce back and forth on my ball of my foot, but feel free to stay still. We're just powering through that heel. So just pushing out, noticing the length of the back of the leg here. And then begin to lift that foot off the floor, so parallel, toes pointing down. Bring the weight into the right hand and then reach your left hand out and balance here. And then release the left hand, release the right knee. Reach out with the left foot. So stretching out through the left hamstring, through the left heel. Maybe moving back and forth or just staying still. And then if you are moving, come to stillness and lift the left toes. Pointing the toes downward, flexing the foot. Bring the weight into the left hand and reach out with the right. And then come back down with the left knee. Bring the knees, a little wider than hips distance, maybe even mat distance. And then bring the big toes to touch and sink your hips back to the heels. So if it does not feel comfortable, feel free to skip child's pose. Otherwise, you can also modify. So if you have a block or you have a cushion or something that you can put under your head for support, feel free to do that. Or you can also put something underneath your hips to lift them up a little bit if that's too much on your knees. So this is a great resting pose, but if it's not comfortable, then it won't be a restful pose for you. So feel free to skip it. Take some breaths here. Feel the broadness of the low back. And then come forward. So the alternative to child's pose for a resting pose would be half dog. So you can have your toes pointed or your toes tucked. And then instead of lifting your knees off the ground like in downward dog, your hands are directly just in front of the shoulders. And you're just bringing your hips back into the upper diagonal. So you're reaching out with your hands, bringing the head towards the floor, but your hips are up off the ground, so they're not by your heels necessarily. Like in child's pose, they're up just like in downward dog. So our body is doing the same motion as downward dog, but it's less stress on the hands and wrists. So this is a great alternative if you have wrist issues or shoulder issues. It takes a little bit of the pressure off. So feel free to use that as an alternative to downward dog at any point. Also as an alternative to child's pose for a resting position. So now we'll come into downward dog, lift the knees up, hips high into the sky, chest towards the thighs, strongly reaching out with the hands. Your knees are bent to start. You can also pedal out your legs if that feels good. My hamstrings feel tight this morning, so maybe yours do too. And that movement sometimes just brings a little more warmth to the area, a little more openness. Deep breath in, long breath out. Lift the heels up and then bring the heels down towards the floor, straightening the legs as best you can. And then one more inhale, exhale all the way out, and then walk the feet forward to standing forward bend.
So relax the head down, relax the arms down. Release the jaw, any holding in your teeth or your tongue. And then slowly roll up to mountain pose.
So remember, in mountain pose, we want to make sure our feet are nice and rooted into the ground. The outer leg line is strongly rooted down. The inner leg line is pulling up. Bring the navel to the spine. Drop the tailbone down. Roll the shoulders back and open. Fingertips down to the sides. Lifting the chin slightly, and just feel the strength and stability of mountain. Inhale and bring the arms all the way up, touch the palms. Exhale and bring the hands down to the heart, and then fold from the hip crease to come all the way down. And then bring the hands up to the shins and work towards a flat back, so you're reaching out through the crown of your head. Back is parallel with the floor, and then fold back down. And then come into downward dog. So step the feet back, chest towards the thighs. Trying to keep the legs straight this time. Roll forward into plank pose. So you can stay up on your full plank here, or feel free to lower your knees and come into a half plank. So maintaining the navel to the spine, so keeping the core engaged as best you can, and then lower down. Maybe if you have your knees up, you can lower your knees and then come down into knees, chest, and chin. So just making contact with your chest and chin, keeping your hips high, and then lower your hips down, point the toes, bring the hands to the low ribs, and lift up into low cobra. Lower back down, tuck the toes under, come up into table, and then all the way back up into downward dog. Look up to your hands, inhale, exhale completely, and then walk the feet forward into standing forward bend again. Maybe shake your head no here, nod your head yes. Just let go of anything that you're holding on to, so any worries or anger, frustration, anxiety, any tension that's sticking in on your shoulders and neck here. Allow it to release out of the crown of your head or your fingertips. And then bring your hands to your shins into a half lift. And lower back down into your forward fold. And then if you do have blocks, bring the blocks to the sides of your mat. And we're stepping back into a lunge. So you'll bring your left foot back to a lunge first. Keeping your right foot forward, bend the right knee, and then lower the left knee down to the floor. Point the left toes and bend into that right knee. So drawing the right hip back, drawing the left hip forward. And then bring the hands to the right knee, lift the chest up. Release the hands and lift all the way up, or keep your hands on your knee, that's perfectly fine too. So reaching and lengthening, maybe gazing upward. And then touch the palms here and bring your left elbow to your right knee. So we're just coming into a twist while the left knee is down. Bringing the right elbow up towards the ceiling. And then release the hands back down. Tuck the toes under on the left, lift the left knee off the floor, and then work towards straightening that right knee. So stay here if this is enough for you. If you want to fold a little further, maybe just bend your elbows, so coming down towards your thigh a little further. Keep breathing, make sure check in with your jaw. Make sure we're not holding on to any more extra tension. And then bend that right knee. And then release the right hand and reach out to the front here. So extending the arm out. And then release the right hand down. Release the left hand out to the front. Reaching with the fingertips. And then release back down. Move your blocks off to the side. Palms flat to the floor and step back to downward dog. Deep breath in. Long breath out. And then walk your feet forward to standing forward bend. Come up to a half lift, so hands to the shins, work towards a flat back. Fold forward. Bring the hands to the hips and then just come all the way up to mountain pose. So inhale the hands up. Upward hand pose, reaching up, out towards your fingertips. Maybe gazing upward, lifting from the back of the heart. Touch the palms, bring the hands to the heart. Take a breath here. Notice how you feel. Notice how your breath has changed or any other sensations in your body. And then release the hands and fold forward. Grab your blocks or your other prop that you may have, and then bring the right foot back behind you and lower your right knee. Point the right toes and come into the left knee here. So again, bring the left hip back, the right hip forward. Keeping the knee over the right foot, or the left knee, I'm sorry. So we're not bowing the right knee, or the left knee out. We're just keeping it right in line with the foot. And then bring the hands to the left knee and rise all the way up. And release the hands and reach out through the fingertips. And then touch the palms and bring the right elbow to the left knee. Come into a twist. So the left elbow up towards the sky. Palms together. Release the hands back to your blocks. Tuck the toe on the right foot. And then straighten the left leg. And stay here. If this is enough, then maybe fold a little more into the left leg. So bringing the chest towards the thigh, maybe bending the elbows or lowering your hands to the floor. And then come back up and bend the left knee. And reach out with the left hand. Lower the left hand, reach out with the right. Lower the right hand, move the blocks off to the side, palms flat to the floor, and step back into downward dog. Inhale and exhale. And then come forward into plank again. So again, stay in your full plank or come down to your knees. And then lower down to your belly.
And then bring the hands in front of the elbows into Sphinx pose. So the elbows are directly under the shoulders, the palms are flat to the floor, and you're lifting up the chest here. Keep the navel to the spine and then look over your right shoulder to your right heel. And then come back. And then come back to center, lower back down, bring the hands to the low ribs. Tuck the toes under and come up into table. And then back into downward dog. One breath here. And then step or walk your feet forward, come into standing forward bend. Half up. And then fold forward. Bring the hands to your hips and come up into mountain. Inhale the hands up, touch the palms, and bring your hands to your heart. And again, check in with your breathing here. Notice how you feel. To the side of your mat. So feel free to use whichever side is pointing towards me. And then your toes are pointing towards the long edge of your mat. So feet are running parallel with each other. And then pivot on the heel of the right foot and point the toes to the short edge of your mat and bend into that right knee. So we're keeping the hips square to the long edge and opening up that right knee here. And then bring your arms up, palms facing up to start. So arms parallel with the floor. And then turn the palms down and gaze over the right arm. Warrior two. Fingertips are strongly reaching. And then release the left hand to the left thigh and bring the right hand up and overhead. Maybe gazing upward. Elbow and lower the right arm to the right thigh. And then sweep the left hand up and overhead. Extended side angle pose. And then come back up to warrior two. Bring the left hand to the left hip. Straighten the right leg. Turn the right palm away from you and begin to reach out with the right palm. Reaching and reaching before folding over the right leg. And then bring the right hand to the right shin, or if you have a block nearby, you can grab that behind you. And then open up the left shoulder and reach the left arm up and overhead. And then release the hand back to the hip, bend the right knee, both hands to the hips, and then pivot on the right heel. And then repeat on the other side, so pivot on the left heel, and bend the left knee, opening up the hips here, so the hips are square with the side of the mat. And then bring the arms parallel, palms facing up to start. And then turn the palms down, gazing over the left hand, come into warrior two. Release the right hand to the right thigh and lift the arm up and overhead. The left arm, maybe gazing upward. And then come back into warrior two. Bring the right hand to the right hip, bend the left elbow, and lower the left arm to the left thigh. And then sweep the right arm up and overhead, reaching out with the right hand. Rise back up to warrior two. Straighten the left knee. Bring your right hand to the right hip. And then point the left palm away from the body and reach out and lengthen first. Reaching, 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 and then folding over the left leg and opening up the right shoulder here. Maybe reaching up overhead. This is triangle pose. Bend the left knee before coming back up. Bring the hands to the hips and pivot on the heel. Before we bring our feet together, we're going to just do a forward fold in our wide angle stance. So keeping your hands on your hips, find your hip crease and then just begin to fold forward nice and slowly. And then allow your hands to follow. So bring your hands down in front of your face. Maybe if you have the range of motion, you can bring your hands in line with your feet or just keep them out in front of you. And just fold forward. So release the head down. Just like when our feet are together. And then come up on your fingertips and work towards a flat back here. So just like a half lift, but with our wide angle stance. And then keep your hands there and bend your right knee. So kind of opening up the left inner leg line. And then come back to center and bend the left knee. Opening up the right inner leg line. And bring the hands to the hips. And rise back up to standing. And then heel toe the feet back in. Inhale the hands up. Touch the palms. Bring the hands to the heart. And breathe here. Notice how your body feels now. Check in with your breath. And then open the eyes and we'll come into, we're going to do tree pose today. I think as things are starting to come alive a little bit outside and spring is starting, I love tree pose for its balance and its strength that it kind of instills in us. And, you know, I just feel like the trees are going to start blooming soon in the next month or so, and it's just a good way to pay tribute to the outside. So we'll start with standing on our right foot. So root that right leg down, root the foot into the floor. If you don't have your socks off, I would recommend having them off for sure by now, but for sure for this pose, it's just really helpful to feel with your foot. So just imagining that your foot is a root digging into the floor and just really grounding you. And then take the weight out of the left leg and open the knee out to the side. So this is the first step. And you can stay here with your foot. So this is great. You can keep your foot just right down by your ankle or even by your shin. Definitely avoid your knee joint, so you don't want your foot to be by your knee joint. If you want to go fully into the pose, you can bring your foot to your inner thigh and just push that, that left leg into the right thigh. So I'm going to stay here today, down by my calf, because that just feels better. Pick a spot in your room as well. I should have said this first, but find a place that can be a focal point for you. So anytime you're doing a balance pose, it's good to find a focal point that's not moving. So pick something that you can just focus on, and then use that as a point of, you know, maintaining your reverence for balance. And bring your hands to your hips to start. Keep breathing, and then bring your hands to your heart. stay here, this is great. Or bring your hands above your head. And the last option is to open your hands out to the side, so growing your tree, strong branches. Keep breathing, notice if you're holding on to tension in your jaw or your tongue right now. And bring the hands back to the hips, knee out in front of you, and then shake out your legs. So I gave instructions kind of backwards, but find your focal point first. Bring your hands to your hips and then release the weight off of your right foot this time. So open. So pushing that foot into your left standing foot, rooting that left standing foot into the floor, and then bring the hands to the heart. When you're there, take your time. Hands above the head, and then grow your tree if you want. All of those are optional, so keep your hands where you feel best. Also, trees wobble, so feel free to come out of the pose at any time. Hands together, come back down to your hips, release the right leg, and shake out your legs. And then come to the back of your mat, so feet are mat distance. And then bring your hands behind you, clasp the hands and open the chest. So notice how broad your collarbones are, lifting the chest up towards the sky. And then just begin to fold forward. So find the hip crease again and fold forward with your hands behind you. And your hands do not have to be far up above your back, but they naturally, as you bend, they naturally come behind you. So they can stay at your low back. That's great. The main idea is to open up the chest here. So you want to really focus on opening up the chest as you fold. And then release the hands to the low back first and walk the hands forward into downward dog. Come forward into plank and lower your knees. Point the toes and lower all the way down to your belly. And then pillow the hands in front of you. So hands are stacked, and then lower your forehead. And just stay here and breathe. So these are all just different checkpoints for our breath. So we're checking in to make sure that we're maintaining the reverence of our breath. Inhaling and feeling the belly and the ribcage expand against the floor. Exhaling and softening the belly against the floor. The floor is a perfect point of contact for our breath. Lift the head just slightly and then walk the arms over to the right here. So just kind of lengthening out the left side of the body. And then walk the arms back to center and come over to the left, stretching out the right side of the body. And come back to center. Come up into Sphinx pose one more time. Navel to the spine. And then slowly roll to one side and bring your knees up. And then just kind of crawl forward. So it's not
No, there's no fancy way of doing it, but just come into seated at the front of your mat here, and we'll roll down slowly to our backs and begin our cool down. So feel free to cover up now, or you can cover up when we do Shavasana. And just lower to your back, so knees bent again, coming back into the pose that we started with. So bring the right knee into the chest and hug it in with your hands. Take the knee into the right hand and bring the knee out towards your right armpit, opening up the hip here. Always good to keep the feet active when we're doing these stretches, just to protect the knee joint. And bring the knee back to center, and then cross the right ankle over the left knee and draw the left knee into the chest. Lower the left foot down and bring the right foot over to the left side, to the floor. So you're opening up the left hip here, stretching out the right outer hip. And come back to center. Release the right foot down. Bring the left foot into, or the left knee into the chest. Grab the left knee with the left hand and open up to the left armpit. Cross the left ankle over the right. Keeping the feet active. Lower the right foot down and then cross the left foot over to the right on the floor. And then bring the legs back to center, release the left ankle, straighten the legs out, reach the arms up overhead, and just see how long you can make your waist here. So really give it a good full body stretch. And then release the arms back down. Bend the knees, feet flat to the floor, palms flat to the floor. Puff up the chest here, so bring the shoulder blades together and just try to open up the chest. So shine the sternum up towards the sky. And we're coming into a bridge pose here, so try to maintain this broadness in your chest as you push into your heels to bring the hips off the floor. So notice if your chest begins to cave in, then maybe lower your hips back down to a lower height. So the idea is not to bring your hips as high as you can, but rather to maintain this openness and broadness across the chest. Keep breathing here. 2 more breaths. And then slowly lower your hips down. So
Maybe lowering one vertebra at a time on your back. And then take a breath here with your spine in neutral. Bring the knees into your chest and hug them in. And maybe rock back and forth and massage out the low back a little bit. And then circle the knees around. And reverse that circle. Come back to center and lower the feet. And then we'll begin to set up for Shavasana. So feel free to find the position that feels best for you today. So you can continue to lay on your back and just stretch your legs out long. If you have a blanket or a bolster or a pillow of some kind, you can place that along your spine and just kind of allow we do consider this to be the most important pose of the practice, so it's important to stick around and allow yourself this time to sort of enjoy the work that you just did, or as my teacher would say, enjoy the fruits of your practice. So, really just allow this time for yourself at the very end. And just begin to settle in to the pose. You're that laying on my side for Shavasana was actually very comfortable. So really any pose that gives you that rest and relaxation is perfectly fine. So whatever works best for you. And begin at your feet and just allow them to fall open. Allow your toes to be soft. Release the tops of your feet and the arches of your feet. Release the ankles and calves. Release the hamstrings and the shins. Soften the thighs and the backs of the thighs, the glutes. Allow your legs to just fall into the floor. Soften the hips and the pelvis. Release the low belly and all the inner organs. Allow your low back to soften, the sacrum. Release the ribs and the mid-back. Feel the shoulder blades down the back, softening, releasing into the floor. Release the solar plexus and the sternum. Release the collarbones and the tops of the shoulders down into the floor. Release the upper arms, the elbows, the forearms. Release the wrists and maybe roll the hands. So roll the wrists in a circle and reverse the circle and just sort of allow any air or tension that's holding on to just release. And then take your thumbs and touch each one of your fingertips. And release all your fingers, and then just allow your hands to softly fall open. Release the back of the neck and the throat. Release the base of the skull into the floor. Feel the tension melt from your scalp. Release the temples, the ears, the earlobes. Release the forehead and the eyebrows and that little space in between your eyebrows that always seems to be creased. Release the facial muscles in the jaw, the tongue, the soft palate. Release the eyes to the back of your sockets. And just gift yourself this time just to be, just to relax, just to breathe. The Moment by Rolf Gates. Sitting and breathing brings us into the miraculous experience of our own embodied present moment. Over time and with practice, we find that intimacy with the body and the breath exceeds the most sublime experiences of art or music. In fact, we come to the understanding that all art, all mastery, all acts of transcendence flow from and are expressions of our own inner space, the body, the breath, the mind, and the heart. As we take in the depth of our inner space, we are brought into intimate contact with the larger space, the moment. There is an understanding that changes us gradually and forever. The space within us and the space around us are the same. We are the wave and the ocean, and everything else is too. Deepen your breath again and come back into the room. Maybe wiggle your hands and feet. Stretch your arms above your head. And when you're ready, roll over to your side and stay there for a breath. So don't jump up too quickly. And then push into your hand to come all the way up to seated. And when you're ready, bring your hands to your sides and turn your palms up. Inhale the hands all the way up, touch the palms and bring the hands to the heart. And lower your head to meet your heart. As always, from my heart
heart to yours. Namaste. Thank you so much for being with me today.